Hello everyone, welcome to 64 Squares by Praveen. Today we dive into the most essential checkmating patterns that every chess player must know, from the background mate to the smothered mate. These patterns will sharpen your endgame and finish your opponents with style. Let's begin your journey to mastering the art of checkmate. Let's go ahead. Now, this is the first mating pattern which we are going to discuss. Here, in this position, it is black to play. Okay, and whenever there is a checkmate, we should always focus on the king, try and find ways to attack the king. Here, black plays knight to e2 check, attacking the king. After knight e2 check, king goes to h1, and now here black plays a brilliant and a shocking move to white. Black plays queen into h2, queen sacrifice. Yes, queen sacrifice. And after king into h2, rook h6, and it is a checkmate. This mating pattern is known as Anastasia mating pattern. Anastasia mate involves the knight, e- involves the knight and either a rook or queen. It occurs when the king is trapped in one of the corners, as we can see, and is checkmated by a rook or queen. The knight controls the remaining two squares. There is a pawn in between, and it's a checkmate. Let's go ahead. Now, in this position, we are going to discuss Anderson's mate. Anderson's mate is a checkmate pattern that occurs when the rook is protected by a pawn on the seventh rank and the pawn is protected by another piece. Now, in this position, white plays king to f6. So there is a pawn on seventh rank. It is now defended by the king on f6, and white is threatening rook h8. Yes, it is not a stalemate. Black can play pawn to e5, okay, and then rook h8 checkmate. This is known as Anderson's mating pattern. In this position, black king is completely in the corner. King can't come out as there is a rook and knight restricting the king. Here, white plays rook to h7. Okay, the knight traps the king while rook checkmates the king. We can see the knight is defending the rook as well as controlling g8. This mating pattern is known as Arabian mate. Arabian mate occurs when the knight and rook work together to checkmate the black king in one of the corners. This mating pattern is very useful because it is very hard for the opponent to protect the king who is in the corner. Here we can see that rook h7 and it's game over. Now this is a very famous mating pattern, right? The back rank mate. Back rank mate happens when a king is trapped under its own pawn shield and will get checkmated by a rook or queen on the back rank. Here is an example. White plays rook c8 check, attacking the king, and now the king will be checkmated in his own castle. Black plays rook e8, temporarily blocking the check with the rook, but now white plays rook into e8 check, and it is a mate. The pawns are blocking king's path. There is no way to escape, and white wins the game. This mating pattern is known as back rank mate. Now here, this is a mating pattern with the queen and bishop, or we can say the balustra mate, which occurs when the queen controls the king and bishop is used to check and mate the king. So here bishop goes to c6. For this mate to work, the bishop needs to be checking the white black king. And then because the queen controls all the escape square, okay, then it is a checkmate. And now this is a mating pattern which is known as Blackburn's mate. Blackburn's mate occurs when two open bishops and a knight checkmates the opponent's king. Here white plays bishop h7 check. Okay, this mating pattern is named after the Joseph Henry Blackburn. Remember this, who used it in one of his games, and then it has became actually very famous. And now that's why two bishops and the knight is protecting the bishop. It is a checkmate. Now here there is a two-rook mating pattern, which is also known as the blind swine mate, which shows up the power of the rooks on the seventh rank. White plays rooks g7 check, king h8, rook h7 check, king g8, and now the next rook 7 to g7, and that a7 to g7, and that's a checkmate. And now finally let's look at a mating pattern which involves a queen sacrifice. Yes, the Boden's mate. Boden's mate, it is also known as the two bishop checkmates, okay, or two bishop mating pattern. Here it occurs when two bishops control the open diagonals and work together with some enemy pieces to mate black. Here, white played queen into c6 check, sacrificing the queen. Black can go to b8 as there is a bishop, and when pawn takes c6, just bishop a6. And after bishop a6, strangely enough, if black's pieces weren't there, the result would switch entirely. But now it's fine. Check, and then there is a bishop, right? And then it's a mate. All right, friends. So now we will stop here. I hope you liked my video on the basic mating patterns. For more updates and videos, do like, share, and subscribe my channel. Okay. Till then, bye bye. Take care.